Warning, warning, sexual predators have used a number of drugs to attack their victims. Now predators have begun using a common over-the-counter medicine to incapacitate both adults and children, prompting a warning from victims advocates. It's called the Benadryl Cocktail. Ladies and gentlemen, crime prevention analyst, heads up the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University in Fort Worth, Texas, Dr. Alex Del Carmen. How are you, sir? Nice to have you.
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm great, except I just can't tell you what I would do to people who do this to people. It just angers me so quickly. It is so ruthless and evil. And are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. Unfortunately, this is happening across the country, and we're seeing a spike in those types of cocktails that are mixed with Benadryl. Very sad.
How does it work? I mean, what happens to the person that ingests this?
So essentially, imagine a group of teenagers, next week enjoying their spring break, and one of them orders a drink, begins a conversation with someone next to them, and while they're having that conversation, somebody else comes in and pours a liquid inside the drink, a liquid that doesn't smell like anything, doesn't taste like anything. Person continues to drink their cocktail, and before they know it, they're drugged. They get up the next morning, they've been raped.
Okay, so I guess we got to be careful where we are. We have to make sure that maybe a bottle of beer, it's hard to taint that, but you're just going to have to be very careful of who hands you a drink.
Right. Who hands you a drink, and also who's around you while you're consuming that drink, because it's not just the fact that, most of us think, well, it's just the bartender. He or she is going to hand you the drink and you're good to go. Well, yeah, that may be true, but what happens between the time that drink is given to you and the time that you finish consuming it? Who are the people around you, and how quickly can these folks put that liquid inside your drink without you knowing it?
Yeah, but then what? I mean, presumably you don't remember everything and all this stuff, but don't you, fall over? They carry you out? How does that work?
So obviously it works gradually, and so what they'll do is they'll say, hey, why don't we just go outside and sit there and talk a little bit, and then you'll head out there with them, and before you know it, you've been taken somewhere and get up the next morning and find yourself raped. And so and in other cases, there's so much going on in a lot of these clubs and a great deal of places where a lot of teenagers are hanging out. No one is going to think twice about a teenager being dragged outside of the bar because they've been intoxicated and someone volunteers to take him home. So, that happens all the time.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen, crime prevention analyst, what do we do except don't put ourselves in those situations?
Right. So first of all, obviously, let's try not to go to these places where we just don't know who's around us and all that. But realistically speaking, 2/3 of the teenagers that are listening to us right now are going to say, yeah, right, well, that's not going to happen to me.
Yep.
I'm super careful.
Right.
I've got friends that I trust, this and the other. So it really has to do with who you're next to all the time.
I don't know. It is so. This is like kind of a Bill Cosby thing. He's on trial now at the end of his life for apparently doing this kind of thing for decades, drugging women. And I don't know what kind of a human being would do that, and I don't know how you would stop human beings from doing that except doing something extreme to them. But then people would scream that's inhumane. But it is just, I cannot believe that we live in a place where you have people around you. And sometimes, Alex, I'm sure that you're thinking, oh, they're such a nice guy. He'd never do that. They're that.
That's exactly right. And many people come up to me, I've been a criminologist for 20 years. I cannot tell you the number of times that people come up to me and say, well, I met him at church, or I met him because they're friends of a good friend of mine.
I know.
We don't do background checks,
I don't know. And again, I hate to be so bad, and again, it's not a very good thought and Christian thought, but castration. If you catch somebody that does this, you castrate them. And would that not be a deterrent to say, okay, men, good luck to you, but if you're absolutely guilty of this and we can prove it, that's what you're putting at risk. Maybe that's a deterrent that would get their attention.
Yeah, the sad part is that most of the research actually suggests that, believe it or not, this is not even a sexual issue, it's a control issue.
Wow.
So if you were to castrate them, they were still trying to control you anyway.
Man, I don't know. What do you do with these monsters? I guess you lock them up is all you can do. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how you do your work,
Alex. You lock
Alex.
them up.
I don't know how you can deal with this horrible stuff every day, Alex. It's so dark.
It is a horrible thing, but there's got to be a few of us good guys that are going to go out there make a difference in the world, and so we volunteer to do that.
We appreciate you being one of the good guys, Alex. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen, Tarleton State University criminologist, analyst down in Fort Worth. It just frustrates me, slow to anger, but I get there in a minute when I think about how mean, cruel, evil people do this. I mean, what kind of person does that? And we're living around them in Champaign-Urbana?
You're right.
Check your sports headlines.
Yeah, Monticello Sages. Let's move on to something